Tonight's headlines are brought to you by McDonald's and Mariana's Coffee.
Good evening, Commonwealth, and thanks for watching the Channel 2 News. I'm Chris Nelson. Let's take a look at tonight's top stories. Julian Assange lands in Saipan, pleads guilty to a felony, and leaves for Australia, flanked by a former Prime Minister. Also tonight, international press going live to all corners of the globe from right here on Saipan. And attorneys for Assange say WikiLeaks' work will continue. Stay with us. These stories and more are next.
Find a plan that goes with your flow. Get unlimited local talk, text, and data at the most affordable rate with Unlimited Flow Postpaid.
I love Mariana's Coffee. Come join me for a cup. I think you would be really happy.
Half a day, women of the Marianas, in our roles as mother, wives, daughters, and friends, we often put the health of our families and loved ones first. But remember, to be the best version of ourselves, we must prioritize our own health. Regular screening like mammograms, pap tests, empower us to detect cancer at its earliest stages, increasing the chances of successful treatment. Take a moment to schedule your screening today. By taking care of ourselves, we can continue to care for those we love. Make your health a priority. Your loved ones need you, and you deserve the best possible care. Schedule your mammogram and pap test by calling the CHC Women's Clinic at 670-234-8951.
This is a bag. But for Steve, this bag gives him food cred. Because now everyone knows that when they have that craving, or they're just looking for the perfect deal, well, they just need to follow Steve.
Follow him all the way to the new McTerry Deluxe at McDonald's. It's an all-beef patty smothered with teriyaki sauce topped with lettuce and tomato on a sesame seed bun. For a limited time, price and participation may vary.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pled guilty on U.S. soil this morning to a felony and was sentenced to time served, allowing him to leave the island of Saipan a free man. Assange arrived this morning by private aircraft that left last night from Bangkok. Assange landed at Saipan International just after 6 a.m. this morning and was met on the tarmac. Outside the federal courthouse, U.S. prosecutors arrived before Assange, while international press, many of whom flew in last night from Tokyo, began to set up for Assange's arrival and started doing live shots for their respective news organizations. Local residents came by for a look as well.
I just jumped out of the gym. I had to come.
I was actually getting my coffee this morning, and I heard that they were at the airport, and then I heard the motorcade was leaving, and so I came over here thinking he was going to be coming into the courthouse.
A couple of minutes later, 3 vehicles entered the court parking lot in the white SUV. Former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd got out of the front seat. He's now the Australian ambassador to the U.S. And Julian Assange came out of the back.
Mr. Assange, any comments? How are you feeling?
The 52-year-old has fought extradition efforts by the United States and has been in jail for the last 5 years in the UK. Assange made his way into the courthouse and up to the third-floor courtroom, flanked by his attorneys and Australian embassy staff.
Make way, ma'am.
Excuse me.
At 9:38 a.m. this morning, Assange indicated to Judge Ramona Manglona that he understood the charges and was prepared to plead guilty to a felony, an offense punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The United States told the judge they were prepared to prove that Assange conspired with Chelsea Manning to obtain and deliver troves of documents, many classified as secret, related to national defense, including databases, Afghanistan and Iraq activity reports, U.S. rules of engagement, and others. Manning received a sentence of 35 years, but had it commuted in 2017 by President Obama. The Northern Mariana Islands have nothing specifically to do with the charges of violating the U.S. Espionage Act, which occurred outside of the United States, but it is a federal court, and it has close proximity to Australia, Assange's home. The venue for today's appearance was part of the negotiations and allowed Assange to avoid an appearance in the continental United States. He told the judge, paraphrasing here, that he believed the First Amendment and the Espionage Act were at odds with each other, and he believed his disclosure of documents was protected by the First Amendment. Judge Ramona Manglona accepted the terms of a negotiated plea agreement, which was initially filed under seal, where Assange pleads guilty to one felony count, and the U.S. agrees to drop the remaining charges filed in Virginia. Assange is sentenced to time served, and there is no fine. He also agrees to promptly remove himself from the United States. Afterwards, the attorney's U.S. lawyer and UK lawyer spoke at a makeshift press conference.
Barry Pollack, criminal defense lawyer for Julian Assange. The prosecution of Julian Assange is unprecedented. In the 100 years of the Espionage Act, it has never been used by the United States to pursue a publisher, a journalist like Mr. Assange. Mr. Assange revealed truthful, important, and newsworthy information, including revealing that the United States had committed war crimes, and he has suffered tremendously in his fight for free speech, for freedom of the press, and to ensure that the American public and the world community gets truthful and important, newsworthy information. We firmly believe that Mr. Assange never should have been charged under the Espionage Act and engaged in exercise that journalists engage in every day, and we're thankful that they do. It is appropriate, though, for this fight to end, and it is appropriate for the judge, as she did today, to determine that no additional incarceration of Mr. Assange would be fair, would be appropriate, and it is time for him to be reunited with his family. Mr. Assange is grateful for all of the support that he has received and looks forward to reuniting with his wife and his children and getting back home to Australia. Thank you.
Mr. Polk, is Mr. Assange going to come out and make any statements at all or be available for a question?
Mr. Assange will not be taking statements. When we conclude here, we'll go back inside and we'll leave with Mr. Assange, but he will not be taking questions.
What does this mean for the future of WikiLeaks and the work that WikiLeaks is doing?
WikiLeaks' work will continue, and Mr. Assange, I have no doubt, will be a continuing force for freedom of speech and transparency in government. He is a powerful voice and a voice that cannot and should not be silenced.
Can you speak more about the choice of Saipan as the venue for this?
Because his supposed crime occurred entirely outside of the United States, whatever district is the first district that he enters is the appropriate district for him to be prosecuted. By agreement with the government, we decided that this was an appropriate venue. It is closest to Australia. It allowed us to come in, allowed Mr. Assange to walk out a free man, and to quickly get back to his family in Australia.
You said that this was happening for years.
Does it set a chilling precedent today by Mr. Assange pleading guilty for other journalists that might pursue national security stories in the future?
What sends a chilling precedent is the prosecution. The fact that the United States elected to charge Mr. Assange with violating the Espionage Act. The court today determined that no harm was caused by Mr. Assange's publications. We know that they were newsworthy. We know that they were quoted by every major media outlet on the planet. And we know that they revealed important information. That is called journalism. The United States prosecuted that. They exposed Mr. Assange to 175 years in prison. That is what has a chilling effect. Today, a decision that it's time for Mr. Assange to go home, that doesn't have a chilling effect. The chilling effect is the United States pursuing journalism as a crime. I hope this is the first and last time that ever occurs.
Given what you just said, how difficult was it to therefore for Mr. Assange to come here and make this deal? Of course he wants to go home, but how difficult was for him to swallow all of that?
Mr. Assange was not going to agree to any disposition of this case that required him to accept allegations that are simply not true. Mr. Assange did not plead guilty to, and would not plead guilty to, 17 counts of the Espionage Act, computer hacking. There was a very narrow agreed upon set of facts here, and Mr. Assange acknowledges that, of course, he accepted documents from Chelsea Manning and published many of those documents because it was in the world's interest that those documents be published. Unfortunately, that violates the terms of the Espionage Act. That's what we acknowledge today. We also said, and Mr. Assange said very clearly, that he believes there should be First Amendment protection for that conduct. But the fact of the matter is, as written, the Espionage Act does not have a defense for the First Amendment. So what he acknowledged is what he has to acknowledge, which is true and nothing that he should be ashamed of. Yes, he received classified information from Chelsea Manning, and he published that information.
Mr. Pollack, how does he feel? How does he feel about the legacy that he's leaving behind? The legacy that he's created and built over the last few years, and what he's contributed.
I hope he feels very good about it. He has, I think, spurred an important discussion in the United States about how to balance national security and freedom of the press. He has standed by his principles, putting up with detention in the embassy, incarceration in a high-security prison. I hope that every one of us would have the courage to stand by our ideals the way Mr. Assange has, and so I certainly hope he feels that he has left a powerful legacy, and I am certain that there are other chapters in the Julian Assange story yet to be written. With that, I'm going to turn it over to...
So can you tell us how long it took to get this deal? Years? Months?
62 months in Belmarsh to get this deal. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Robinson, Mr. Assange's Australian and United Kingdom counsel.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jen Robinson. I'm Julian Assange's counsel, have been his longest-serving counsel. Today is a historic day. It brings to an end 14 years of legal battles. And finally, after 14 years of legal battles, Julian Assange can go home a free man. This also brings to an end a case which has been recognised as the greatest threat to the First Amendment in the 21st century. So it is a huge relief to Julian Assange, to his family, to his friends, to his supporters, and to us, and to everyone who believes in free speech around the world, that he can now return home to Australia and be reunited with his family. I want to take this opportunity to thank the many people who have, around the world, supported Julian Assange over these years, and who have supported us in defending him. There has been a global movement behind Julian to protect free speech, and it is because of that global movement of support that today's outcome is possible. I also want to take time to thank the Australian people and the Australian government for all of the support that we've received from home in Australia. In particular, I want to thank our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, for his statesmanship, his principled leadership, and his diplomacy, which made this outcome possible. It was as leader of the opposition, he said, and took a stand for justice and said, enough is enough. There is nothing to be served by Julian's continued incarceration. As Prime Minister, he stood true to his word, and he did what he needed to do to ensure Julian's freedom. He raised it at the highest level, at every opportunity, and when Australian officials were making outreach to the US, they knew that they were acting with the full authority of the Prime Minister of Australia. It was his intention that this be done, and we wouldn't be here today without the Prime Minister of Australia's support. So I want to thank Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. I also want to thank our Attorney General Mark Dreyfus, our Foreign Minister Penny Wong, and give particular thanks to our US Ambassador and former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd for his adept diplomacy and his relentless efforts in Washington that facilitated our negotiations with the US government and ensured this outcome. I also want to thank our High Commissioner in London, Stephen Smith, whose tireless work enabled us all to be here today. I think it's also important that we recognise the free speech implications of this case. Julian has suffered for more than 14 years because of the risk of extradition to the United States. He faced 175 years in prison for publishing evidence of war crimes, human rights abuse, and US wrongdoing around the world. Today, he pleaded guilty to an offence for having published information in the public interest, for which he's won journalism awards the world over and been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize every year for the past decade. This sets a dangerous precedent. This prosecution sets a dangerous precedent that should be of concern to journalists everywhere. The US is seeking to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction over all of you without giving you constitutional free speech protections. And anyone who cares about free speech and democratic accountability should stand against it. But I want to encourage everyone that stood up and fought for Julian to continue to stand up and fight against this dangerous precedent. I hope that the fact that we've been able to free Julian Assange today against all the odds and against one of the most powerful governments in the world will give hope to all journalists and publishers who are imprisoned around the world. And we encourage everyone who stood to fight for Julian to continue that fight for him and for all of those others in the hope that we can secure their freedom too. Thank you very much.
Upgrade your savings when you bundle with any iPhone 15 series today. Our affordable Link bundle gives you the power to choose just what you need, with mobile and home internet starting for as low as $105 a month, no home phone required. Plus, activate your bundle with a brand new iPhone 15 and receive your first 2 months of home internet on us. A $50 port-in credit, a SuperPod AX, and basic installation, all free for a limited time. Additional conditions may apply. Visit DocomoPacific.com to learn more. Docomo Pacific, better together.
At one of Saipan's beaches, this mother lays about 100 eggs under the cover of darkness. She hides her nest as best she can and then slowly makes her way back to the ocean. The eggs hatch and the babies head for the sea, where they will face a daily dose of danger. Just 1 in 1,000 will make it to adulthood. Those that do will one day lay their own eggs. Sea turtles are protected under CNMI law. If you see one that is stranded or if you see illegal activity, call the hotline at 287-8537. Premium office space is available now at the Hermosa Vista Business Park on Capitol Hill. Features include dedicated parking, fast internet, backup power, good water, and natural light throughout to go along with the very best views on Saipan. So don't settle for space when you can get peace and peace of mind. Call Hermosa Vista today at 670-483-4750 or email hvsaipan@gmail.com. Assange, not much to say publicly today after the verdict. He signed a book inside the courtroom, hugged his attorneys, and after his lawyers answered some questions, he made his way to a waiting vehicle.
What do you think about the body of Gilgamesh, sir? Body of Gilgamesh.
Message to journalists during the justice is served.
Security detail was worked out with the Commonwealth government by the Australian ambassador to the United States, former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Why did they choose the Northern Mariana Islands over Guam?
That's a very good question. It was probably because it was more of a direct flight from London to, I think they're stopping in Thailand or refuel and straight in here, and then is the closest jurisdiction to Australia that's in a U.S. soil with a federal court. Obviously, I mean, we could also think about it. There's less potential for a lot of chaos with the press and press coverage and all that. So they wanted to get this done efficiently and get it done in a U.S. court.
Richard Miller was local counsel for Assange and met his client this morning. Outside of the legal arguments and things like that, did you get to spend any time with Mr. Assange, and did you know a bit about him before this case?
I knew a bit about him, only what I'd read in the press over the years. So I knew generally what the matter was about. I knew that he was in prison in England. I did get to spend some time with him, obviously, and I liked him greatly. I had didn't know what to expect about him personally. Sometimes you, like meeting anybody else in the world, sometimes you quickly develop a positive impression or a negative impression, and he made a very positive impression on me.
Why not Guam?
I don't know why not Guam. So I'm afraid I can't help out with that. I know why this area of the world is for the reasons that were given in court and that I believe the U.S. attorney gave in their letter request, which I believe is on the docket, because of proximity to Australia was the main reason for out here. But why Saipan as opposed to Guam? I don't know the answer to that.
A change of plea hearing is now scheduled for July the 2nd for Tyrone Regis Fidio. In 2012, Fidio was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment for enticing a 12-year-old girl detained at the Cagman Juvenile Detention Facility to engage in a sexual act. In October, Fidio was arrested after being accused of sexually molesting a minor. Fidio is being represented by the public defender. Again, a new change of plea hearing is now scheduled for July the 2nd.
Some people would say it's ancient history, but I also feel that this is sort of hallowed ground.
Bill Michaels Jr. made the trip out here from the mainland to honor his dad at the 80th anniversary ceremony of the Battle of Saipan.
My father was in the 4th Marine Division. He was a lieutenant. He did the first 3 battles that the 4th Marine Division participated in. He was in the Battle of Roy Namur, and then the Battle of Saipan, and also the Battle of Tinian. And he was awarded the Silver Star for service in the U.S. Marine Corps.
Michael says after the capture of Saipan and Tinian, his dad broke his back playing football during training for the amphibious landing at Iwo Jima.
And during the training, he broke his back. They sent him to Aiea Heights Naval Hospital in Honolulu. And they wouldn't let him go to the 4th battle that the 4th Marine Division did.
Tens of thousands never made it off of Saipan. There were 8,000 civilian deaths, 46,000 military casualties. Bill's dad made it home, and he settled in academia.
Dad went back to the East Coast. He was a junior college teacher. He taught creative writing. He taught Shakespeare in New Jersey at Berkeley Community College, and he raised 4 kids with Mom. So that's it.
Michael says in some ways he learned more of the history of the Battle of Saipan 80 years after the fact, as his dad didn't say too much about the hard things they endured.
I mean, these guys were just boys away from home. He would tell me about playing football in the Marines and playing baseball in the Marines, but not much else.
And Michael says his dad carried his love of sports and teamwork throughout his life.
He always taught me the value of not just scholarship, but athletic scholarship, and he felt that there was a great strength in understanding what it was like to be part of an athletic team at whatever level. So I know that's going to sound really kind of corny, but I think that most of these guys felt that they were on the Marine team, the USA team, and I think we just have to feel blessed that we're here now, and there's been 80 years of peace, and hopefully we continue for another 80 more.
Hey, golfers, come north and practice your game at the Marianas Driving Range. New Year's local specials. 10-piece coupon books available for just $60. That's a $10 savings. Want to get really good? Come work on your swing every day for just $99 per month. It's our practice pass and you're going to love it. Grab your passes and go straight to the range. You can social distance and chip all at the same time, and the views are free. Reserve now at marianastrekking.com. You can pay online, open 7 days a week. Beautiful weather continues. Isolated showers today, mostly cloudy, low around 77. East winds 13 to 16 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 21 miles per hour tonight. Tomorrow, expect isolated showers, mostly sunny with a high near 86. East winds 14 to 16 miles per hour, with gusts again as high as 21 miles per hour. And that weather is going to continue in the weekend. Expect highs around 87 this weekend, with isolated showers, mostly cloudy with lows around 77, and that wind coming out of the northeast.